All right, so the video is just starting. If you're watching on the recording, I just gave a whole like overview of the knives. I'm not going to go over that again. I might choose to do it at the very end, like after I close class, so that I'm not taking up more time of the class time and the people who are here live. So we went over all of our lives. These are the days of our lives. Of our knives. So this tool right here, this is like, it probably has a brand name. It's called the Accu Sharp. And I use this. And right in there, in that little V, there's 2 sharpening stones. You put the, I'll do it over here, actually. I'll actually show you this one. I always do it over the sink because there are little burrs. It has a handle thing that we put here over our hand because the blade is going to end up touching there. And then I firmly place my fingers down. And, you know, Teresa, I also teach yoga. And those of you who don't know me, who are watching later, I teach yoga. So I would say, like, make a yoga stance. And you place all the way at the back here. And you press down with, you know, it's not too much, it's not too little. It's kind of like a medium light. And I'm pressing down and pulling all the way to the tip. Press down and pull all the way to the tip. And I am feeling in there as I do it. I can feel the burrs. And I can feel them smoothing themselves out. And just that many, I did 4 swipes. The edge is really sharp. And then washing the burrs off, washing the little. Now would be the time for me to grab my steel and just kind of do the, I think I might have one, do the details. Yeah. So with a steel, I grab up here, not the handle, but up here. And when we talk about ergonomics, I'll show this grip too. Sometimes a steel has a bigger protection right here. This one does not. So we have to be aware of that. Now, again, the angle of the blade to the steel is what's important here. So I'm just going to try and hold about a 45-degree angle. And swipe that a few times just to smooth out the edge a little bit. If you didn't have it, it's not the end of the world. But a sharp knife is actually very, very nice to have. And dull knives can be dangerous because dull knives, well, sharp knives can be too, right? They're both dangerous. But the thing, dull knives can surprise us because what happens with dull knives is we're using more force. And that force is what can get us into trouble. Finesse is our friend. Okay, so from there, I'm going to go right into this other piece that I thought about during the week. It just kind of came to me when I was thinking about teaching this and as a teacher, and I've been in people's kitchens with them, or I coach the Ayurvedic health habits. everybody has different styles and ways of doing things. And more, I just learn and open up to what is a person's style. And I really want to work with that and help them identify their own uniqueness and leverage that to create what they want. So with knife skills, it's a little bit different. You know, if it's something like, well, I like to clean the bathroom like this, or I like to load the dishwasher like this, good on you. Do it your way. But with knife skills, it's a little bit more like a craftsmanship, like carpentry. So if, you know, you measure in carpentry, you use a special miter saw to create just the right angle so that pieces come together, you plan it out. You don't say, oh, I don't really need to measure. You don't say, I'd rather use the chainsaw than the miter saw. You know, you just don't. So with knife skills, it's kind of like that. Of course, many people make do over time doing it their way. And so absolutely, that's still an option. This refining process is more of like a craftsmanship, but it's a fairly easy one. I would say that it's, I don't know carpentry, but I'm going to say it's way easier than carpentry. So there we have pretty much the knife part. Now I'm going to get into the food part. And when I worked in the restaurants, classical French cuisine, there was so much beautiful chopping. And we even carved watermelons. Like I would carve a little scene in the watermelon to be a display for the brunch, or I would turn it into a basket and then take all of that out and put melon balls or fruit salad inside. So just like so much fun knife skill stuff. At home for me now at this point in my life, it's much more utilitarian and food prep for the week, that kind of thing. So that is more of the nature of what I'm offering right now. And then some of you know that I teach Ayurveda, and I'm now, food is something that I feel like we need to work with our personal style more. We need to pay attention to what our intuition is. I need to meet people where they're at with their desires for nutrition and what they like. And however, Ayurveda does have some pretty strong recommendations in terms of how we eat, and they're centered around our digestive system. And I'll pretty much just, you know, I could go so in depth with that, but that's the basics of why Ayurveda has the kinds of recommendations that they do, the strong recommendations that they do is to make things easier on the digestive system. And they say the more that, you know, we've heard the phrase, you are what you eat. Ayurveda says you are what you digest. If we're not digesting, our food becomes ama, which is a buildup of kind of gunk in different layers of the body that actually is like waste in the body. It's built up waste. But if we're digesting cleanly, the food that we eat becomes the cells of our body. And according to Ayurveda, the ultimate, the ultimate results of your good digestion happens like 30 days after That's how long it takes us to digest and for food to become our cells of the different layers of the body. Ayurveda talks about the dhatus. There's many different tissue layers of the body, and to fully assimilate and fully digest, that's when we create these really quality tissues. So, all about digestion. Seasonal eating. So, seasonal eating again has to do with digestion and the digestive fire, and there's a science to it. So, for this, and there's a few things involved in that science, but one of them is about microbes. So different foods have different microbes, and that helps to create healthy gut flora. And if you go back far enough, these foods that are for different seasons, for summer, for winter, for spring, for autumn, they have to do with what naturally grows that time of year. When we go to a supermarket, we can get winter squash, carrots, beets, mangoes, avocados, lettuces, and jicama all at the same time, you know, and because all those things grow all around the world at different times of the year. So one of the ways to know if you're eating locally, like Teresa's in California, so Teresa has a way different growing season. The farmers there are growing different things. She has a lot more access to produce than the people, us folks up here in Idaho and Montana, you know, but a lot of our food does come from California and south of the border. So the foods that are on the list for today are summer foods. Now, mangoes and avocados still do not grow here, but they are coming from California, not, you know, on the southern equator, just the south side of the equator, which would be what is true if we buy them in winter. So, and one way to work with the qualities of food for summer or any season is the taste. And there's certain tastes that balance the doshas. And I'm not going to get into doshas too much, but it's another Ayurvedic concept. And so in summer, we want to eat more things that are sweet, bitter, and astringent. And in the winter, we don't want to eat cold foods, but in the summer, eating some cold and cooler foods is actually, it's okay for the body. And this is, Ayurveda also says eat more heavy and oily foods, but in the summer. But I want to put that into perspective because I might consider like a stew to be a heavy meal, or like a, you know, something fried as a oily meal. That's not Ayurveda's take. Heavy is as opposed to light, like chips and rice cakes. So we want something that is more dense. So when you look at, or when, you know, we're going to cut an avocado has heaviness to it. It also has oiliness to it. Even a watermelon has heaviness to it. So it's the opposite of light when we look at heavy. And then the oily is, again, not fried foods. but coconut oil, olive oil, and a reasonable amount within our meal. And also, so it's this, like, we want to create the tendencies of Pitta dosha and summer and fall is to get like really ungrounded, light, crispy, airy, dried out. So we want to eat things that, and hot. And we want to eat things that do the opposite of that. So there's my little ditty. I'm going to stop there because I could go on and on about Ayurveda, and I love it. I wanted to say, if you have the capacity and ability to know your farmer, like actually meet the person who's growing your food, that's a wonderful way to know that you're getting quality food. And there's something that's called the community supported agriculture. And different farmers will give you like a bundle of food each week, a box of food with these different things in it. And it's really fun. You get to know what's growing in your area. You get to know what different farmers grow. You might do one farm one year and another farm another year. And then you also might get some fruits and vegetables that you've never tried before, and you get a chance to try them. So that's fun. Last thing about food is organic versus non-organic. And in the Google document, I linked, there's an organization called the Environmental Working Group, and there is, they have what's known as the Dirty Dozen. And those are the conventionally grown crops that have the most herbicides, pesticides, even GM, genetically modified seeds, all that. Then they also have the Clean 15. So there's, you can go with conventional farming, but there's actually a lot of foods that are not that filled with pesticides. They're not GMO. They're not sprayed as much with herbicides. So those, those lists, if you want to inform yourself, if you're someone who hasn't gone organic, or you don't really know the value of going organic, or you might like to reduce your food cost. You want to do organic, but you want to reduce your food costs. That's a good way to just kind of just make your decisions about what you want to do in terms of, eating local from a local farmer, a small farm, regenerative agriculture, or supermarket food, right? There's so many choices. So hopefully those couple lists will not overwhelm you, but might give you some more ideas about refining your choices. Gavin, do you have a question? Or are you blocking the sun?
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. So we're not going to look at my face as much, and we're going to look down here at cutting boards. And then I have a little bit of a, so I have a glare. That's what me finishing my sentences. One thing that I want to say, if you don't already have a pair of kitchen scissors, and they can be regular scissors, there are kitchen scissors that are a little bit more heavy duty, but a pair of scissors in the kitchen is such a good thing. And whether you're cutting open a chip bag, or cutting a tag off of your pineapple, or actually cutting food, which can happen sometimes too. I'll show you. Like, for instance, this is a cilantro, bunch of cilantro. In some cases, I'm going to show you how to chop this too, but in some cases you might want to, cut and have leaves of cilantro or parsley. There's different things, but I think not everybody has a set of scissors. in their kitchen. And if you don't, it's a win. All right. So cutting boards. I really prefer a wooden or bamboo cutting board. And my very, very favorite all-purpose cutting board is heavy. Like this thing weighs 5 pounds, 5 or 7 pounds. And this one has these, it has little rubber things right here, little rubber feet that when I put it down here on the counter, it does slide a little bit, but very little. It's pretty sturdy. Between the heaviness of the board and those little rubber feet, it's sturdy. This cutting board right here is also in our cutting board drawer. And I know, with a few others of different sizes and thicknesses. And I notice I grab this one a lot. I think it's because it has a handle. So if I'm just doing something really quick, I might throw it up here and just use it just like that. And it's like less cumbersome to get out than the big one. And then the other kind of cutting board that I want to talk about here are these plastic ones. And these come in thicker, denser, heavier styles as well. But this one is really portable. Now, and honestly, in the restaurants, we used big ones like this all the time. That was because they ran them through the dishwasher, they sanitized them. There was no time for wooden cutting boards. Here is one of the cutting board tricks that I think everybody should know. You may or may not know it. And it has to do with a wet washcloth. So I got the washcloth wet, I wrung it out pretty dry, and check this out. Here's this, this cutting board is all over the place. You can take the wet washcloth, put it under there, and now it barely moves. The same thing with this wooden one, barely moves. And you want that. If your cutting board is moving around under you, that's like trying to use a chainsaw when you should be using a miter saw. That's one of those things. Big no-no. So after that, I'll say that these ones, like I use this for cutting chicken. Like if I need to cut chicken, I take and I'll put this right next to the sink and I'll prep my chicken here with a washcloth under it. And then everything just goes right into the sink. I also use these if I'm cutting like a big bunch of garlic or onions, because then that garlic onion flavor stays on these boards and doesn't get onto my wooden board where I cut my watermelon. Because if you cut your watermelon where you cut your garlic, your watermelon will taste like your garlic. All right, so that's my favorite use for these guys. The washcloth under the smaller boards without feet, or bigger board if it doesn't have feet, huge life-changing tip. If we're doing a lot of prep, this having more surface area is also really nice. Trying to do, a task on those small boards is just hard. It's just really hard. So all of these veggies, I went and I took all their little stickers off. That's a project when you buy, things conventionally. And washing. I wanted to bring up washing because that has been something that people have asked me about in the past. So I know it's a common thought. This, I think, can get a little bit more into personal preference. So I don't have any hard, fast rules about washing. I will tell you what I do. This is Dr. Bronner's soap. I use it for everything all over the house, including washing vegetables. It washes really clean. It's super highly concentrated. So I usually put it into something like this and dilute it like 1 part soap to 2 parts water. And then I am going to, right now I'm going to, I didn't do this beforehand. So I'm going to wash my watermelon. And it's been in the fridge, so it's cold. I'm going to take my pumper soap and just move it all over there. I like to wash the watermelon because who knows who or what touched the rind, but since my knife is going to be going through the rind and onto the flesh, for me, it feels right to wash the watermelon. I'm going to wash the cantaloupe and zucchinis and peppers. I'm going to wash all of those too. And I think what I'll do, since I've got a lot of things, is I'm just going to put a little bit of water, a little bit of soap in there, and rinse them off. I don't need to scrub them. Mostly I just want to get, it's not even about the dirt. It's just the who knows what. Sometimes it's the dirt, but mostly it's the who knows what. And then in terms of washing, like everything's really wet. So something I will say is after washing, before I cut these, I'm going to make sure that I dry them off with a clean towel, because you don't want wet hands and you don't want wet product while we're chopping, because it can be kind of dangerous. Things I don't wash. I don't wash cabbage, and my cabbage is organic. But what I'll do is I'll take off, sometimes this outer one gets wilty. I'll just take it off. And so all the fresh, good ones are exposed. I store cabbage like this, like I have cut off of it right in the produce drawer. But now if I'll get it back out, this is kind of wilty and maybe even kind of dirty from the produce drawer. So I'll take off those kind of wilty outer leaves for a fresh start. And I also do not wash kale. And I especially wouldn't wash kale if it came in my CSA. There's kind of, in my opinion, just no reason. And I've worked on a farm and picked the kale. And for, you know, some of those reasons, it might make me feel more secure about it all. So, but even, and I did, but this is organic. I might look at it, and if I saw some visible chunky dirt, then I would rinse it off. But I don't really want to chop it when it's wet, and I want it to be dry. So that's another reason why I don't think it's that dirty. And I also want it to be dry when I chop it. Now, if I brought this home and it was really wilted, I actually might stick it in a bowl full of water. I chop the bottoms off to give a fresh cut, stick it in a bowl of water, and it'll actually perk back up. So that's kind of fun and nice. But I'll go through and I'll be like, are any of the leaves yellowish or don't look that great? And I'll pick those out. Celery, or actually I'm gonna go to bunches of parsley or cilantro, or this is basil from our CSA. I won't wash them. You wash them and they just start to go bad right away. If your cilantro or parsley is wilty, you can cut it off at the bottom, stick it in a glass of water, and it will perk back up there too. Mostly you don't want to get it wet. Celery, I will cut the stalks, I'll pull the stalks off. And a lot of times, right here at the bottom, there's dirt. So I'll take and just rinse it off to make sure that that is gone. And then I'll do this outside of the sink, but I'll just go like that to get most of the water off in the sink, and it'll be ready to go. Mangoes, avocados, same thing. I'm going to wash those to get the skin clean because I know my knife's going to be moving through them, and I don't, and who knows what, touch them where they sat in the shipping process, all that. However, you know, that's one of the things about having a CSA or knowing your farmer. You're not going to get avocados and mangoes, but some of these other things like the zucchinis, the peppers, the cucumbers, all of those, they're not traveling miles and miles and going through many different hands before they get to you. The farmer's usually picking them like that day or 2 days earlier, and they might be the only ones who touch them. So yeah, that's all those things. We're also cutting pineapple. I don't wash the pineapple, you know, and I'm kind of going, that's interesting. I'm realizing I'm catching myself and going against my own theory right there. I usually don't cut the pineapple because it's so prickly and weird. And but I do bring the knife through it. And I just remembered, here's what I will do sometimes though. I'll peel the pineapple and then I'll rinse it off. I'll rinse my knife and then I'll cut the rest of it. So I'll show you that when we go through the pineapple piece. All right, it's time to get chopping. Hey, Gavin, what do you want to start with?
I don't know.
You don't? Ask your mom. Ask your mom what she wants to start
Pineapple.
with. Pineapple. Okay. Let's do it. It is a handful. I'm not going to lie. Pineapple's a handful. But that's where I think, like, you know, having someone show you is such a cool thing. All right. So couple things are going to come up as we're going along about the ergonomics, and I'll try and slow things down as we do it, as they to show with the knife skills. So firstly, I want to say when I bought this pineapple a couple days ago, it wasn't quite ripe. So I actually took it outside and I set it in the sun for 2 days. And now it smells beautiful, like a ripe pineapple, and I love it. Sometimes at the bottom here, this will get really golden yellow, and there might even be like, you'll almost go, is that mold or is that going bad? That's actually not real bad. That might be more of a ripe pineapple. So I think in general, a ripe pineapple smells like a pineapple from the outside. So first I'm going to just pop off the top, and then I'm going to choose my chef's knife. And like I was saying, you would think that you hold a knife here with the handle. I hold a knife like this. So I've got thumb and pointer finger and knuckle actually up here on the back of the blade. And that just gives me so much more control. And sometimes I'll do this, almost like holding a pencil, because again, it's more control. The more you choke up, the more it's an extension of your hand. And the further back here, the less, the more flimsy our leverage is. We just have this wrist thing up here. There's more sturdiness. So first thing I want to do is cut off the ends so that I can have a flat surface. So I'm grabbing the pineapple like this. I'm making sure my fingers and thumb are pulled back and out of the way. And I'm positioning my eyes and my weight over top so I can see, and I want to try as best as I can to cut straight down. This, anytime the knife moves like this, is friction. And I think a lot of these things came naturally to me. I see that they don't come naturally to everyone. So running the knife back and forth gives an amount of friction, which helps to start the cut. So I'm kind of back here, I'm like 3/4 of the way towards the tip. I'm going to press down and actually slide forward to get that friction to start the cut, and then come right down through. And I kind of went, I seesawed back and forth to get that friction, to get the nice slice. Then flip it around. Back here at the end, little friction to start the cut. And then, and here I'm even spinning the pineapple a little bit. So there's all this stuff about the way the hands communicate with one another, and little tiny techniques that if you turn this into a craftsmanship, you will discover too. And it's just that thing of like, how do you make it an art and pay attention and be mindful with what you're doing? Now, I cut this one. I have a little bit of the pokey skin still left in there. So I'm going to take my paring knife. I didn't plan on teaching this technique, but I'm going to take my paring knife. I'm going to hold it all the way up here so that I can cut that out. And I'm just going to kind of go around at an angle. And spinning the pineapple. And there we go. I ended up taking out a piece that looks like that. So then now we have a nice, and I'm brushing off any spikes, get those off the board. Now it sits on a flat surface. I've got my knife, and here's a new ergonomic technique. And this looks like this. And the knife comes, we can use the back of the fingers as a guide for the knife. So I'm here, I've got fingers on either side. I've got these fingers pulled back. The knife is touching these knuckles, but the fingers are pulled back out of the way. So I'm here. I know I want to go at a depth that gets so there's not a lot of those little pricklies left, but I don't want to go so deep that I'm wasting the flesh. So little friction to get it going, and my knife's sharp enough that now I can take bigger slice, little rock back and forth, and you can see not much flesh on there. And there's some little pokies, but not much. So I might go a little bit deeper this next time. So I notice I'm doing a little vibration shimmy back and forth. And if your knife is duller, you will need more of that. And if your knife is sharper, you will need less. So now I've gotten most of that off, brush that off to the side. And then I'm going to go around for secondary cleanup. Right there, there's a whole seam I missed. Take that off. Right there, there's a few that all in a row. I'm just kind of slicing out those little pokey bits. I'm doing my best to not take too much flesh, but clean it up so there's no pokey bits. And then I might even turn it over and look because it's kind of hard to see that stuff at the bottom. All right. So then at this point, this could be when I go over to the sink, just rinse off the pineapple, use the washcloth, clean the board, dry my hands, dry the knife. And then cutting it in quarters lengthwise. So I'm right here at the top. I'm going to use my fingers to start the cut and then slice right down. Turn it, fingers to start the cut, slice straight down. So now you've got 4 sections. They're not perfectly quartered by any means. And then here's the core. Right here at the top, I'm slicing down, cut the core out. After that, maybe I want to cut it in thirds, just trying half or thirds lengthwise. And then fingers are guiding, fingertips pulled back, knuckle on the knife, and hands wrapped around to hold those 3 together. And then I go slice, 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 slice. And, you know, this is where preference or what you're cooking comes into play. You might want to, and, you know, there's other things you can do and create like a fine diced for a pineapple salsa. But these are the basics. If I did fine diced, I might like take the core out and then I would try to cut it like this. So there's more sheets instead of triangles. And then taking the sheets, cutting them, cutting again, and you come up with a dice. So pineapple basics. And a lot of this is practice. And like anything else, how do we get good at anything? We practice. So I'll move these guys out of the way. And I can see now, like, this is going to be longer than what I thought. So I want to respect everybody's time. I'll finish the class as long as it takes to get through the veggies. But if it comes to 7:45 and people want to skedaddle, I won't be offended at all. I had never taught this. I didn't know how quickly I needed to move through. And don't forget to add your questions to the chat if you have any. Okay, let's do watermelon next. We'll do the fruits first. So I'm going to dry my watermelon. And again, this is going to give us some beautiful squares of watermelon with no rind attached. I know the whole time growing up, I always had like the triangles of watermelon with the rind on the bottom, and you'd pick up a triangle and eat that off. And I think that can be really fun too. But I like cutting so much, and I enjoy eating things that are nicely cut. So I'm just kind of funny that way. But so here's our watermelon. I bought one of the smaller size ones. You can do this with the bigger size ones too. It's a little bit more beastly, but you definitely can do it. So it's mostly just like the pineapple. I'm going to cut off the ends. And the thing is like how to stabilize what you're cutting, how to get the cut going with a little bit of friction, how to keep your fingers out of the way. So a little bit of friction, and I'm having to hold on to it to hold it still. Now I've cut the two ends off, and now things are easier. It's flat surface, flat board. And then I've got my hands up here, stabilizing, holding, and I'm actually going to take the knife at an angle, shimmy a little bit to get it started, and then I am pushing down like this I'm using this leverage, and I'm pushing down so I can take the knife and get it to go around the shape. So there's quite a bit of pressure. I'm pushing down, shimmy, 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 and the piece that comes off looks like that. And then I just go around the whole way. Now, here it's gotten a little off. I'm gonna go, here's that second cut, go back and take off the white. And I can see that if I start all the way up here, I'll miss this. So I'm going to start part way down, but do the same thing. So you're asking the knife to make the shape of a watermelon. And you're using the leverage and how you're pressing it to create that. So then I'm just going over second time, getting some of those the white parts off. And then now we've got this nice round, beautiful, gorgeous watermelon. And with watermelons too, if we buy them too early in season, well, that's when they'll be kind of mealy and they don't taste so great. Peak season, They're good. These guys are coming from California for sure. Watermelons don't get ripe up here until like September. They take the whole growing season. And unfortunately, by then it might be cold. So the refreshingness of the watermelon is like not as fun. So now I like cubes. So I'm going to show you how to do cubes. First, I'll take this slice and come down, and that is so I can get a new flat surface. And then I'm going to turn it on its edge and cut. My slices are about 1.5 inches, 1 inch to 1.5 inches. And then you've got these bigger slices. I've got all the little rounded pieces. I'll do those separately. But here are 2 flat slabs packed on top of each other. Super easy to use my hands as a guide and just cut, cut, cut. Turn the whole thing, cut, cut, cut. And get the right container. And a bunch of, and this one was a little bit mealy in the middle, but a bunch of really nice cubed, easy peasy watermelon. I've been eating a lot of watermelon because of the heat. It's very cooling for the body. And I notice it's best if I eat it within like 3 days max. 2 days is nice. Okay, so there we are. Moving through watermelon. Cantaloupe, almost the same, but I do, and I'm gonna go through, it's like the same as watermelon pineapple, but we have to scoop the seeds. So I'm just gonna go as far as scooping the seeds here. But same thing with the peeling. And again, what I'm trying to do when I take those off is like get enough of it off and get the green off, but not waste the flesh. So then now that I have it peeled, right down the center, and you can use a spoon to easy peasy scoop out the seeds. And I'm going to go right over to my trash to just, well, no, I'm not actually. I'm going to do it right here for this one. Easy peasy, scoop out the seeds. And then you have your half that you can then do slices. You can turn into cubes, like the triangle cubes, like with the pineapple. I've also dice this into fine dices to make like a melon salsa for on top of fish, which is really yummy. There's all of those. And now mangoes. Dun, dun, dun. And I want to talk about mangoes a little bit because I feel like sometimes buying mangoes at the store is such a crapshoot, and it has made me frustrated, and even kind of I almost stopped buying mangoes. But mangoes have a heaviness, they have a sweetness. They even have like a slippery texture to them, right? All those things are good for summer. We want to create that unctuous, slippery, oily, opposite of dry in our body. So I have a feeling that this mango is going to be brown on the inside when I cut it. We'll open it and see. Sometimes I throw away a whole mango and it's really disappointing. I also want to say I have two different kinds of mangoes. This one has a thinner skin than these guys. And I use a paring knife for this. Now, using a paring knife, you know, I remember growing up and my mom giving me tips about using a knife, and she would say, never cut towards yourself. And I think that was a great thing to tell someone, because you can cut towards yourself and miss the fruit and slice right into your hand. We're going to cut towards ourselves when we cut the mango. That's exactly what we do. So I would say, you know, it's hand technique. I've got the thumb here. I've got a dry piece of fruit, a dry knife, and I'm starting all the way up here at the top, almost beyond the top. I'm doing a little bit of, and my knife's not very clean, sharp. So a little bit of friction to get it started, and I wasn't getting the friction I wanted, so I actually pierced it with the tip, and then I got a little hole, and then I stuck my blade in there. So now I've got that, and I've got the thumb hold, and I know the seed's in there. So I start it, and then I want to find the seed with the knife. So I'm kind of angling the knife down until I find the seed, and then I'm following the seed with the knife all the way back to my thumb. And it's not brown, but it's not that pretty. It's not, I know it doesn't taste that good. I could tell just by the way that it looks. So, but now that I have this, I take and put a grid pattern in here. The thing about the skin, especially on this one, because it's thinner, you got to be gentle. Here's where the finesse comes in, because you want the knife to go to the skin, but not through the skin onto your hand. So I'm using the tip and paying attention, not going through the skin. It's okay. It's better to end up short than to go through. And then once you have the grid pattern, you can take your spoon, come right up here by the edge, and now you can push right down to the skin. And there you have it, little cubes. Again, you could make a salsa, you could put it over your yogurt or granola. So that's how you create that grid pattern. And I'll do it here with this other side again, right up by the top. And once you get the knife in there, find the seed. Nice, Robin says she'll buy mango again. And this time I'm spinning it around. I'm spinning the fruit and then cutting the center. So then I have the half. And with this, Now you've got the seed, but there's flesh on either side. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not very much. So I'm just going to use my thumb, get close to the seed, and come back. So now I have a slice with some skin. So this is paring knife work is finesse. You don't want to have to be using too much pressure. If you're using a lot of pressure, check it. And maybe your knife needs to be sharper. Mine is almost dangerously dull right now, but I'm making do. Okay, so there's mango. And avocado is kind of like mango, but different. And with the avocado, you could cut it in half, kind of like I did this one. If you're only going to use half, save the half with the pit in it. You could put it in the fridge. Sometimes I leave it on the counter. Either if I leave it on the counter, it might, either way, it might get brown right here. I might cut that off. You could put it in a bag with lemon, different ways to try and keep it. If I cut into an avocado, I try and eat it all in one day or the next day. But paring knife, again, coming into the flesh, go down to the seed. Then once you're to the seed, use your thumb for leverage and actually move the fruit around the knife. See, so that's the thing sometimes too, I realized in the mango thing, I'm moving the fruit. We can move the fruit, whatever we're cutting, and we can move the knife. And then little twist, it opens up. And then from here, you can make, again, you could make slices. Or you could make a grid pattern like what we just did with the mango. And spoon is key. I'll mention a little stylized thing of like, I like to do it my way. And this is something where it's just fine if you do it your way, but I have to use an example of a friend who I taught her how to do this, but then for some reason, she wanted to use a fork instead of a spoon to scoop it out. And that was where it drew the line. And because it was a friend, she wasn't wanting to necessarily learn from me. I was like, can I give you a tip? She said, sure. Oh yeah, that makes good sense. And then like the next time we were together, she was using the fork and I was like, spoon, not fork. And she was like, yeah, it felt a little micromanagey to her. But the spoon is perfect. You run it along the skin, you waste nothing. The fork leaves a whole spoonful of avocado there. So, you come in here with the spoon, you can press right up against the skin, moving the fruit around the spoon more than you are moving the spoon. And voila, all your slices, a totally empty, clean skin. There we go. Avocado. Aguacate. All right. So last fruit is a tomato. And of course, there can be tomato slices. And if you want perfectly round tomato slices, then you don't get to necessarily cut on something flat. Then it's a moving thing and it's harder. What else? I'll give this one little tip because this is kind of cool and was something that we did in the restaurants. With a paring knife, and this is like what I did with the bottom of the pineapple. You come in at an angle, and then once you have that angle, shimmy back and forth to get that friction. And see, I'm spinning the fruit and the knife is holding still, and I'm just shimmying it around. And then what happens is this little triangle piece comes out. That was the stem. It's a little hole right there. And you don't have that in there anymore, and you've like wasted nothing. So I've got my sharp chef's knife. I've got my hand up on there. I'm holding the tomato and using the technique where I put the knife against that knuckle, but I pull the fingers back. Right here at the top, lightly, my knife's sharp, that's nice. Lightly back and forth, slice. Nice, beautiful slices. The other technique that I want to show you with a tomato has to do if you want to chop it into grid-like pieces. Yeah, it is a good looking tomato. This one came from the farmer's market. I agree. Nice looking tomato. So this one, I want to show a dicing technique. I'm going to take out the stem. And I make, so after all this is said and done, I'm going to go back and make pico de gallo, which is like a fresh salsa with diced tomatoes. And I'll make a batch of guacamole. So I'm doing all this extra prep, and I will turn it into something. Otherwise, I'm going to slice a tomato as I need it. Sliced tomatoes don't last for very long. Sliced avocado doesn't last very long. So slicing an avocado as I need it too. Like this thing where some things we can prep, other things we're probably just going to want to do it when we need it. So with the tomato now, or with the dicing, I'm going to take and slice down, but not all the way. I'm stopping, and I'm being really particular about the size of the slices that I'm making. And being careful not to go all the way through. And then turn it. And here we go again, creating a grid pattern. And you guys, I think this one's harder. It's just a little harder to keep, you know, it takes more dexterity. So again, how do we get good at anything? We practice. So now everything's hooked right here. I'm turning it back upright. And now I need to go through to complete the grid. But I kind of want to hold it so that these things stay together, but I don't want to cut myself. So fingers back, knives back, thumb back, and the sharp knife helps so much. Little slices, and I'm looking, and I have to focus to, you know, keep the angle of the knife really, you know, when the knife comes down, it's at a 90-degree angle with the cutting board. And you want to do that all the way down. It stays at a 90-degree angle if you want to make those beautiful little dices. And then this part, you just do your, you know, they will be bigger, but you can go through and do your best to create a dice. Now, I just introduced a technique that I haven't used yet. I've got the tip of the knife on the cutting board, and I'm leaving it there and rock and gentle slide, but the knife is still 90 degrees to the board, like the whole time. There we have it. Diced tomatoes. And that 90 degrees to the board thing, I think is pretty consistent with the world of chopping. Wipe the wetness off. Let's look at celery. And a lot of times I might do more than 2 slices at once for some of this. Like you can take, well, let's see. I'm actually just going to use 4. I could take 4, stack them up really nicely together, hold them together, cut off those weird ends. And look at this, I braced it with my finger. So your offhand is a huge tool. Your offhand moves what you're cutting, it keeps it together, it stabilizes, and the knife hand does something different. Turn around, cut off the little bits. I want to do some sticks. I'm going to cut it in thirds, and then use these bigger ones. I might hold it like that, cut that in thirds, and then you've got a nice size stick. If I wanted to do a really fine dice, I'm going to go even smaller, make these teeny little slices, then turn them, bunch them together, use the knuckle technique. Or, and that was like 90 degree and pressing down. You could also use the rocking tip technique. I notice when I use rocking tip technique, now I come out to the handle instead of choking up. So still holding the fingertips back and making sure the thumb is behind the fingers. And then you get this super fine, tiny dice. This would be more for like for summer speaking, like maybe in a barley salad or a fresh lentil salad, marinated lentil salad. And then for cooking soups, you might dice it that small. But celery sticks for the week for munching with hummus or a lentil spread or peanut butter. These can be prepped days in advance. And you might even like kind of rinse them in water and then put them in your glass container or Tupperware container in the fridge, and that water will just keep them from drying out. Zucchini squash is a big summer staple. And I don't know, I think I might like zucchini more than a lot of other people. But I love zucchini. I love summer squash, and I eat a lot of it. I'll do like a saute of summer squash and put it over a salad, and then it kind of just warms up the salad. And mostly I cook zucchini sauteed, unless I'm using a spiralizer, which those things are really cool. And then that's a whole different cooking class. So again here, easy peasy. Cut off the end, cut off the end. Take it and hold it so that you can put the knife through and tip comes down all the way through, knife at a 90-degree, and you're looking to cut it in half. Once it's like that, I like to cut on the bias on an angle just because I think it's prettier. So, stabilizing hand, there's a thumb back here and fingers here, and as the piece gets shorter, the fingers come back. So slice, slice. It could be, I'm choking up on the knife and going straight down. Some people might like more of the rocking technique here. I think both work. In the restaurants, we definitely did straight down and kind of did that da-da-da-da fast chop. So I think when we're cooking, if we're going to make something, if we want things to cook evenly, we want the pieces to be just about the same size. So that's another reason for precision. So all these slices are just about the same size, which means they'll cook evenly. Now, cucumber, poor cucumber. I'm gonna pass you up. I'm not gonna cut it live here. I'm just gonna say it's almost like a zucchini. Nice, Robin, good. She's just doing her kitchen prep. So with a cucumber, most cases I would peel it. I would peel it with a vegetable peeler. And that is because the peels give me a little bit of cucumber burps. Plus they're kind of tough. If you can tolerate some of the peels, maybe you peel every other, and then it's pretty. Of course, once it's peeled, then you could go slices, so you have rounds. You could also use a spoon to cut out the seeds if you want it less watery. Then you could dice it to create a marinated cucumber salad, or to toss it into, again, like a grain salad or a lentil salad, something like that. So that's cucumber. Let's look at kale, because kale is living up here in Idaho. It's one of my year-round staples. And even though we have lots of different greens in the spring, I still think kale's such an important one, or in the spring and in the summer. And bitter, we need our greens for our bitter flavor of summer. So with the stem, I'll take and grab right here and start to pull the leaf back, hold around the stem, and just pull that off. Discard the stem, and you have a leaf. And that can all move really fast. I've got some smaller leaves in this bunch of kale. Sometimes they're really big. All that moves really fast. I would do the whole entire bunch, de-stemming, and then take the bunch, or take what's there, fold it together. And this, I'm not, for the sake of time, I'm not going to do all of it. This is kind of small, but you can have a big pile there and just kind of smush it together. Pull the knuckles, pull the fingers back, but have the knuckles, and then slice, 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 slice. And as I'm going, I'm moving back. I'm using these back fingers to gather the leaves together and keep moving them back out of the way. I think until I am teaching it, I don't realize how much I use the offhand. So once this is sliced, and the offhand is doing so much work there, just to feed the kale in to the chopping knife. And once it's like that, it's kind of in ribbons. And this is where, after I have those ribbons, that's where I'll make like a marinated kale salad, a massage marinated kale salad. It's so good. If I was going to steam kale, I might not make the pieces quite so small. I might make them a little bit bigger. So that's kale. And I want to do the herbs next because I think that the herbs are very similar to kale. With the cilantro or parsley, I would keep them right in the bunch. Make sure the board is dry, and then get here and kind of move everything together until it's in like a nice little compact, manageable, for lack of a better word, wad. It's like you kind of just gently wad it up. And then I'm going to use handle and rocker technique, but I still have the backhand there holding it, and really small. Really ribbony. And that gives you this nice small to medium pieces. Of course, you could do bigger pieces if you want that in your recipe. You could also, if you wanted it, like with parsley, if you want it really fine, you could come back over it the whole time. Point of the knife is down, and I'm kind of just going back and forth over it to create an even finer, a chop that is more fine. The pieces are even tinier. Now basil, I'm going to do basil next. And basil, I think, is a little bit more, like I definitely treat it more delicately than I do the cilantro and the parsley, which, as I said, you know, it's like the keep it in a bunch and wad it together technique. With the basil, though, just cleaning off my board. The farm that I get it from, they pick the leaves off. They might pinch off the top. So it's like this. And sometimes there's just single leaves. So if you get it and it's like this, just take and pinch off the leaves. And once you get up here to the top, you can pinch off that whole piece like that. There's a little bit of stem, but that's totally okay. So then I am going to do a bunching technique again. So I'm going to get my little handful of basil and kind of delicately bunch it together. And then from there, I'm going to create fatter ribbons. And there's actually a cool French name for this. It's called Chiffonade. So I'm holding that together, tip of the knife down, and I'm going about a 1/4 inch, 1/8 to a 1/4, more like an 1/8. And keeping fingers out of the way, but feeding the plant into the knife. And then you have these nice ribbony pieces of the herb. And part of the reason I treat it more delicately is because basil bruises pretty easily. And basil also does not want to get wet. So if you see basil like turning black or brown, it might be because you got it wet. And I'll tell you, on the farm, when they harvest basil, they don't even refrigerate it. Because the farmer who I worked with, she said that refrigerating it actually causes it to get shocked and kind of decompose faster. Once I buy basil, I do keep it in the fridge, but that's how she, as a farmer, takes care of it. She puts it in a cooler place and puts like a slightly damp towel over top of the container that it's in, not setting on it, but over top of it. So it just has like a cooler, moist environment. Okay, so what we have left is our cabbages. And the cabbage, so I took off those outer leaves, and most of the time I'm not using a whole head of cabbage. Even if I'm prepping like a slaw, or I always put purple cabbage in my kale salad, I'm not using a whole cabbage. So what I'll do is just take and slice off a piece. And you can see that's what I did earlier in the week with my white cabbage, green cabbage. So now I have this disc, and you could do it two ways. It could have longer ribbons, or I could cut it down the middle to make shorter ribbons. I'm going to do longer for the sake of demonstration. Same technique with the offhand, back thumb braces and front hand, fingers curl under, and the knife is hitting the first knuckle, but those fingertips are out of the way. And again, if you're going to go straight down, choking up on the chef's knife. If you're going to use the tip technique, back on the handle. I'm going to choke up and go straight down because I like it like that. Knife at a 90-degree angle to the board. And I'm kind of moving slow because I'm doing I like really thin slices of cabbage. It's a little bigger, and I'm like, maybe I want to try the rocking technique. Maybe that's actually better for me right now. Right, and then you have these really thin slices. So much of the work is done with that offhand. It's like just as important as the knife hand itself. So this is kind of funny. This is not the way I usually cook. I've got like messes everywhere. And after I turn the camera off, I'm going to have a nice little food prep session and keep it all going. But that's it. We made our way through the all the veggies that were on our list, and the two knives, that, in my opinion, the only two knives you need, a chef's knife that comes in different sizes. Mine is either an 8 or a 10-inch. A paring knife. But this bigger paring knife, this utility knife, is fun. and a cleaver can be fun, and you might like it a little better. It's not so good for rocking though, right? And then I also talked about, before I pressed record, the Accu Sharpener. This is a knife sharpening tool that is really handy for the at-home kitchen cook. And the steel is not really for sharpening. It's for smoothing out the burrs after you sharpen with either a flat stone, which is an art in itself, or something like this for those of us who don't know the art of knife sharpening. All right. So I'm going to see if there's any questions first. Any questions or comments? And let's see. Yeah, Robin's like, oh, yay. I just created a nice veggie melody to saute tomorrow for salad. And she also said, I learned how better to use my non-knife hand as a tool. Being left-handed, I was using the non-knife hand in a way that was not helpful. Yeah, and I know things can be different for lefties. So that was good to hear that you had that experience. Yeah, that non-knife hand it's really important. Oh, you guys, we didn't do the pepper. And I actually want to show you because this is cool. God, I love my nerdiness sometimes. So the pepper. All right. Up here by the stem, we're going to leave the stem on actually and come in here with a paring knife right close to that and then curve it around. I could also I'm going to do it with my chef's knife because it's sharper. So slice in there and around, slice at an angle and around, and at an angle and around. Now, check this out. I kind of messed up right there. But other than that, there's no pepper wasted, and all the seeds are contained in there. This was something Elisa, the chef I mentioned, she was adamant about this pepper technique because mostly you want to keep the seeds out of it and off of your board. And there's a few seeds, so I can just kind of dump them out. And you don't want to waste paper because pepper. I remember when I first started, like I would come in and I would cut off the whole end, and then you're wasting a bunch of product right there. So that's a way around wasting that product. And then I might take and cut out that fleshy rib right there. And then you can cut slices. And again, these are something that you can prep way in advance for the week. Slices could be eaten with hummus or dip, or you can have bigger chops for a saute. The thing about sauteing things together is like if Robin goes to saute her zucchini tomorrow, you want to have a pepper that's going to saute at about the same rate, or you want to add it at different times to the pan. You can also do with this a really fine dice. So with that, I would cut them into strips, and then with the offhand, bundle and bunch. And then you have little tiny diced. All right. So now Now we actually finished. Didn't want to leave. It was okay to like leave out the cucumber. It was not okay to leave out the pepper because it was so different. All right. So yeah, wow. Instead of taking an hour and 15 minutes, that was a 2-hour class. Thanks for sticking around. Yeah. Any other?
I guess we lost her.
Yeah, maybe give her a few minutes to come back on.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, bummer. It was a great class. I loved it.
Yes. She still must be on if we're on, because she's the host. I should have been prepping. I need to do some prep work too.
You know, unless something happened with her internet.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, shoot.
She has a lot of patience teaching though. She's very good.
Yeah.
How did you find out about the class, Teresa?
On Eventbrite.
Oh, okay, cool.
Are you two regulars on her classes, or
Yes.
What else does she teach?
Yoga.
Yep, she does yoga. And then she does, I have like a annual ticket that I do with her for Ayurveda and like life coaching, health, lifestyle changes. And she's made such a huge difference in a positive way in my life. So I enjoy having her.
So how do we find out about that schedule from her? She has a
You
website?
can go to her website. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Does she have prices there too and all that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she offers, she's been a coach for me since about 2010. I joined, started working with Sarah because I wanted to age well. And I do yoga classes. The annual ticket that she also does this thing called daily routines. And it's not just yoga like, you know, a drop-in class. It's all under the umbrella of wellness and how we thrive in our bodies. So if you're interested, Teresa, I would highly recommend that you go to her website, and her website's really good about explaining how she, the programs that she offers and what they can do for you. For me, it's about thriving, and it's just on mentally, emotionally, physically, of course. But then you got this whole thing about food, but it's not about dieting, and it's not about weight loss. That's not it. It's about eating healthy, yeah, and eating in a way that seasonally, which is made a huge difference for me, and paying attention to how we digest our food. It's just, it's fabulous. I highly recommend it.
Me too.
Okay. All right. So are you located, she's in Idaho. Are you located in Idaho, I assume? So you're on West Coast time, right?
Actually, I'm in Montana.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm on Mountain Time, but Sarah is in Idaho, and she's on Pacific Time.
Oh, okay. And Sarah, are you in Idaho too?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we're on West, Pacific time. As a matter of fact, I haven't even had dinner. I'm starving.
I bet after watching all that, yeah.
Yeah, you know. And but it was an interesting class. And yeah, I'll check into that. She had sent me an email, so I think I'll just, probably that's the way to find out about her website, right? What is the name of her website?
Sarah Resnick Yoga.
Okay.
.com. SARAHRUSNAK yoga.com.
Okay. Okay.
I was gonna see if it was on the her Eventbrite page, but I don't. I'm looking at event details. Let's see if it has that.
Well, she had sent me an email prior to the class, so maybe.
Oh, it'll be there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, great. Well, that'll be super. I hope we see you again.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. So how long have you been with her, Sarah?
It's been at least 2 years, I think, almost 3 now for me.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what does she do with the life coaching? Is that one-on-one?
She has one-on-one phone calls that she offers, and it's like Robin was saying, based on health and wellness, and helps you set goals if you need to set goals or get organized. That's where she came in for me. That was a game changer. And then just, you know, living in rhythm with the seasons and with your body, and just like the daily routines that you go through that you take for granted, setting up good habits.
And it's she does one-on-one coaching. Teresa as creates groups and community. So you have, you know, that's how I know Sarah, because we've done different retreats together and different classes, and you know, we see each other in different things that Sarah offers. But she does offer one-on-one coaching as well. But and also that's embedded in more of a community situation as well.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll check that out and see.
Yeah. Well, guys, I'm gonna sign off. It was great.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's 8:30. I better go have dinner too.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Nice talking to you. Yes. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.